Welcome back, everybody, to Crossman Productions. Man, I hope you guys are enjoying your week. We just started. We're on Tuesday. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I know we haven't done anything in about a week. I've been working on a secret project. I can't tell you guys what it is yet, but hopefully I'll be able to let you guys know more about that later. So the last like 2 or 3 weeks I've been kind of working on this project. So hopefully, keep our fingers crossed. We're going to be able to tell you guys more about this project, and hopefully it'll come to fruition. So I'm really excited about it. So my next guest we were going to have on last week, and we had some scheduling issues. He got called into work, and stuff like that happened. So, but I'm glad that he's able to join me today. So Jeremy Wilcox is another podcaster, and I met him through Steve Joyner, my agent. Um, he's been bringing me such some really awesome people. We have I think about 10 people now in the works that's going to be coming on in the next couple of weeks. So I'm really looking forward to, bringing them in. But today I get to talk to my buddy, Jeremy. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks for
Glad
being
to be
on, man.
here.
I know we had some, scheduling conflicts last week. We tried to get you in, but that stuff happens. So, and trust me, I get called into work all the time, so I know exactly how that is. You got to pay the bills, man. So
Oh
but
yeah, in
yeah,
the words of the great John Lennon, life happens when you're making plans.
right, exactly. So, but we're here today. I get to talk to you, and now you're another. You have a podcast of your own. It's called Family Squad, the Family Squad podcast. Um, so
Yes.
um, let me do this. I normally do this for every, you're born and raised, and what was life like for Jeremy growing up?
Well, I grew up in like a small town. I moved around a lot from small town to small town with my mom, and then once I got a little bit older, I moved in with my older sister who took me in, and she kind of raised me. And I was in a household of kind of always, you know, do your passion because they were my grandparents who also helped raise us. It was like, you had to do this thing. You can't live your dream. And so they always encouraged me to, live my dream and passion. So with that, not only have I, got the podcast, but I've started my own production company and I have a lot of things in the works at the moment, an animated series, and I'm working on different things to bring other people's projects, to bring my dreams and other people's dreams to that as well.
Cool. So now, how long you been doing your podcast for?
Almost 4 years now.
Okay, 4 years. Yeah. Did you start around the time of the pandemic too?
Yes, it was one of those things. I always wanted to do one because, like, I've always been the internet nerdy guy who's like, "Tell me your stories," and my
Right.
wife is like, "You know a lot about a little bit of everything, and you're nerdy." And she's like, "All these cool people in fandom who are like, I
Right.
know just knowing acts from working conventions for almost a decade." And she was like,
Oh,
"Why don't you reach out and start the show so you can like have these conversations that you have and give this to other people who would enjoy this." And so
right.
she encouraged me to do this show and it's just grown from there. With having guys like Steve bring me awesome people, to interview and make it even better.
Right. And then, that's one of the things I really like about doing our show is, you know, we started kind of at the beginning of around the time of the pandemic, and I started mine just because there was so much negativity online during the pandemic. Everybody was divided about race and politics and whatever, name it. Everybody was fighting, and so I wanted to create a show that would bring people together and share stories, and show that we all have more in common. as humans than we do that separates us. And through that, I've been able to bring in some really really good guests. Um, so with your show now, you kind of started like doing movie reviews, right?
Yeah, it was sort of like just like movie reviews or stuff that I was into. Like I'm a big nerd of different things, hence Fandom Squad. I'm a big fan of
Right.
different things. And so I was like, I did one episode on just Tim Burton. I did another episode on Bigfoot,
Oh wow.
Aliens. I did another one on one of my favorite TV series, Bob's Burgers, which led me to, I was like, well, why not reach out to these people? And one of the first people I reached out to John Benjamin's people from Bob's Burgers. And he
Oh
was
wow.
like, I don't do interviews, but I like your vibe and you're a small show. I want to help you grow. And so he
Right.
did an exclusive interview for me, and it just kind of boosts the show from there.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about some of your favorite guests that's been on the show.
Well, I have to say there's a lot, and I love everybody who comes on.
Right.
Some of the ones I've geeked out the most, which I had to keep my composure to not fanboy too much.
Right.
I had John Benjamin. He's known for Bob from Bob's Burgers. He's from Archer, Home Movies. He's one of my big favorites. I'm a big music guy, and growing up, I was in the youth group and church and stuff growing up, and I love
Right.
Skillet. And I've had John
Oh,
Cooper from Skillet, the lead singer, on. That was a big one for me. If you would tell a 50-year myself, hey, one of your favorite bands, you're going to get to know this guy and be on your show.
right.
Mindy Cohen, for like some of your older audience, Mindy Cohen from Facts of Life, but I grew up on her as Velma from Scooby-Doo. She was a
Right.
really awesome guest. Some other ones I've had some of the Power Ranger people. She was amazing, and she was one of the first like Power Rangers of color. And then she was one of the first Barbies of color. And everybody asks her, I love the story. You can go back and listen to the episode of her emotions in it. I asked her because she's like, I always get questions about Power Rangers, and I did research, and I was like, hey, can you talk about being, the first animated Black Barbie?
Right.
And she was like, thank you so much for asking that, because I never get asked that question. It was empowering for her to be this symbol for not only little girls are a hero, but being, a different color than just blonde hair, blue eyed Barbie.
Right.
So that's another big interview that I really liked. And then another one, if any of your fans are Doctor Who fans, he's a good friend of mine now, John Davey. He's been in Cybermen, he's in the creature outfits, he's been just himself. He's done over 50 plus characters in and out of makeup for the series from 2005 until the recent series. So that's
Wow.
just a few. And then, like I was telling you before we started, Craig Miller, a lot of my guests too are, like I said, some are well known, some are people that I want to get out there because they make all this content that we love and enjoy, but don't get the credit or recognition. Like one of my favorites is Craig Miller. He
Right.
was the nerd fan relations for George Lucas and Jim Henson for Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. And he did with Jim Henson. He did The Dark Crystal and The Muppets Take Manhattan.
Oh wow.
And so he is one. And then he went on to write shows like The Real Ghostbusters. And so he's one of these big people that are big pop culture that's made these things we love, but a lot of people don't know that he's the reason we have these geek
Right.
things in pop culture, because he was the one that these geniuses were like, hey, I have my vision, but I'm not a nerd, and I know this is for the nerd community. And he's the
Right.
one that kind of related to the nerd community. So he's one of my other favorite guests that I'd say when you hear his stories, you're like, wow, this guy's not well known, but he's done everything I love.
Right. So
So that's just some of the gambit. Like I said, musicians, voice actors, behind the scenes cameramen. Like I said, everybody has a story. And like one of the examples I give to people, like when I reach out, like I had a guy who was one of the BP/presidents of Columbia and Capitol Records in the 1980s.
Right.
And he was like, oh, I'm just a nobody. I was just a disc jockey. And I was like, dude, you were like behind the desk when some of the greatest rock music in 80s history was made. I'm guarantee you have stories.
Right.
And so, there's just all these, everyone has a story, and I think that it would be great. And I bring their show to bring these out so people can hear these awesome stories that you don't get to get unless you sit down with somebody conversation face to face.
Right. You bring up a good point too, because some of my favorite people that come on are people who's been in industry for a while, and people that this generation probably don't know as well. But because they've been in the industry so long, they just have some really good stories. One of the people I think about is Larry Hankin.
Oh yeah, I love Larry. Love Larry.
Larry. So you guys, this guy is awesome. This guy's been in 206 films. I mean, his first film was with Clint Eastwood in Escape from Alcatraz, and this guy has got some amazing stories. I mean, he's been in Breaking Bad. He's been in on Friends and Seinfeld, and like a ton of different shows. And I love bringing him on and hearing his stories, because he has so much knowledge and he's had so much experience in the industry.
Oh yeah, one of the cool stories he told me, because I'm a big art nerd and music nerd too, and one of the stories, because he grew up in the air, he was like big in the air in the 70s. There's a story he told me where he was hanging out with Bob Dylan's photographer, and they went up to Andy Warhol's apartment, and sitting there while Andy Warhol is taping Bob Dylan is sitting Salvador Dali in the same thing, and they're all just hanging out. So he's in there hanging out with Bob Dylan, Andy Warhol, and Salvador Dali. And I'm like, dude, how did you not like freak out? Like, these are like music icons and art icons, like idols to people. Like, how did you not freak out? And he's just like, it was the time. And I was like, dude, that's amazing. Right place, right time is what he told me.
Right. He talked about, doing his stand-up comedy and being there when David Letterman first started, So, yeah, I mean, this guy has rubbed shoulders with so many big names, and the thing is having people like that on the show with that kind of knowledge, and listening to the stories and the experiences they've had, throughout the years. Because he's been doing this since 71. He's been doing this as long as I've been born. So that's why I enjoy bringing these guys in. Some people, like you said, don't know who they are, but when you bring them in and they get to share their stories, it's just. And the thing too is, what this generation doesn't realize is, once somebody like Larry Hankins is gone, all his stories are gone. All the experience. And while he's still here, being able to do this stuff, and he's getting back into acting. All these people who are starting their career can learn so much from a guy like this. And him being on and doing shows like for you and I. That's huge for us, So the other thing I was going to tell you too is John Cooper. I'm a huge Skillet fan too. So, Skillet is supposed to be back in concert. I'm hoping I could actually get them on the show. I'd love to talk to John, because if you guys aren't a Skillet fan, go listen to Skillet. Skillet's just awesome.
Oh yeah, like I tell people, like, even if you're not religious, just their music, it's not necessarily, yes, it's Christian rock, but like, I'll put it this way, like they got me into hard music. Like, he tells a story on my show that like he heard, I think, Billie Jean, and he was like, who is that? What is that? Like, his mom didn't even allow like to wear black because it was so sinful, and like he would only be allowed to play piano, and like it was crazy. Like, he grew up in this super strict household, and I'm like, well, what does your mom think about now? Like, what you do as like this rock star guy? Right. And he was like, I kind of just eventually broke from my own, and I did my own thing. And I found out later that because he's a big rock guy, and he's the message guy for when it comes to the Christian stuff, which I knew a little hand that he was a big nerd. And so when he was like, okay, I'm glad that you're not asking me music questions, you're a nerd too. And I have an exclusive that he showed me in his studio. He has a giant statue of Spider-Man from Amazing Fantasy 15. And so he was like, you're the only interview I can show this. And he turns to the camera and he's like, every interview I have is next with Spider-Man sitting next to me. And I'm like, okay, I love you even more now as a fan, now
Right.
that I know that you're actually one of us.
Yeah, he seems like a really cool guy. And then, well, I mean, just the band. I love the band. One of my favorite songs is the Worlds Collide. I mean, most of the people that I've introduced Christian music to. I've introduced them to POD, Skillet, and Thousand Foot Crutch. Those are three of the big bands that that
Oh
people.
yeah. Yeah, it's those two, and how it was like my dad got me into Metallica and Pantera
Right.
growing up, and so when I got into listening to Christian music, I was like, there's no like hard metal. And my grandma, bless her heart, she was like, I want you to listen to some Christian music. And so she was like, she went to when they were still Christian bookstores or you could buy the music, she went in
Right.
there and she was like, this is what he likes, this is what the guy was like, here's Skillet. It was the Monster album and
Yeah.
Switchfoot's greatest hits. So he
Right.
was like, if he likes that retro poppy rock, here's Switchfoot, and if he likes heavy metal, here's Skillet. And
Right.
so she was like, if I can't get you into the super churchy ones here, I'm going to get you ones you like. So my grandma, I got to give her thanks for introducing me to Skillet and Switchfoot.
Well, yeah, because Switchfoot's another good one too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. There's so many, and it's funny because when I first started doing television, it was Christian radio, Christian music. So I had a Christian music show, and then I started doing Christian rap. So I sat down with a lot of these bands, Audio Adrenaline, trying to take some of the others, DC Talk. We've had, I've sat down with a bunch of different Christian bands, but the music is changed so much from from the days of Sandy Patty and I love Michael W. Smith, but so the music has changed a lot from that time frame.
Oh yeah.
To what it is now, and there's so many awesome bands out there, and then the rock music and the rap music. I mean, there's so many of those artists out there, Lecrae, all of them. It's just really cool people, So yeah.
Oh yeah, and I love the history of the music too. Like there's a guy at my job who's a big music guy, and he's like, "Oh, you're just a rock dude," and I'm like, yeah, but I also like the rap and I like a little bit of this. And I was like, that you're, and he didn't realize, I was like, because he's an African-American. I was like, your people created rock music. And he was like, wait a minute, I thought it was Elvis Presley. And I was like, no, buddy. The reason that I was like, Elvis didn't create rock and roll. It was Chuck Berry and Little Richard, which my hometown, I'm from Little Richard's hometown of Macon, Georgia.
Right.
And so having him and Otis Redding in our blood, and I was like, yeah, dude, no, these guys is what your people created rock and roll. Since you like rock and roll and rap that you're trying to mix, that's your roots, man. I was like, the reason that Elvis got big is because he was a white guy. I was like, Little Richard, I was like, the reason they didn't get big because Little Richard and Chuck Berry, one was a black guy and one was a gay black guy. So I was like, they didn't get the recognition as Elvis Presley. So I was like, yeah dude, your people are the reason we have awesome heavy metal like me and you both like.
Right. So yeah, man. So that's cool, dude. So now tell us a little bit, like, so your show you've been doing for 4 years now, and you kind of switched it up. So you went from movie reviews, so you started doing interviews with actors and musicians and other people in the industry. So where do you see your show in maybe about 5 years from now? What would you like to see?
Well, with the show, I'm looking to grow it to a point where not only I want to interview people that are known, but I want to get, people who are trying to break in or other experience. I want to use my platform to help grow other people's careers. Because that's why I started the production company, is to go, I'm not the only one with cool ideas that I don't want to sell to a big corporation who's going to steal my baby. And I want to help other artists, like, instead of going, I'm trying to get my show made and step on you, I
Right.
want to help each other grow each other's creativity to make something better. So with my show, if I can help, promote other people's projects and shows and use my platform to help grow them, that's why I want to grow this thing too, where it's not just a interview show, it's a platform to help other creators get their word out there.
Cool. That's awesome too. I think that you and I have a lot in common because that's what we do too.
Oh yeah.
We bring in a lot of new people who's this is their first interview. You know, with them getting into the industry, and then we've had people like Larry and um, Steve Sawyer, and we've had a lot of people um, who's been in the industry for a while. I had Mike McGlone on. Uh, you know, so we like kind of ran the gambit, and it's the same thing. I want to see people succeed, and I want to see people who are getting into the industry now be able to hear the stories of people who's been in the industry, and hopefully that motivates and helps them grow and know what they need to do. So yeah, I think you and I have a lot in common there.
Oh yeah, like one thing I wanted to talk about and promote too, like I'm working on that as a series right now, adult animation, and just talking to these people, like even if we haven't done an interview yet, just reaching out to people in the industry. Like I had a guy, I won't give names, but I had a guy in the company. He was a concept artist for a well-known superhero animated series. And when I was talking to him about, developing concepts and stuff, he was like, here's my horror stories. They brought me in, this big company brought me in to do all this concept work. And
Right.
because I wasn't a name, I wasn't a well-known name in the industry at the time. They loved my work, but because I wasn't a name, they passed me by. And so
Man.
he's like, I'm going to give you the horror stories that I learned along the way, being in this
Right.
industry for almost 25, 30 years, that with you showing with your show, I don't want you to get trapped in these things and you lose your amazing vision and your baby because somebody wants to swindle you or shows you
Right.
something shiny, and he's like, I'm giving you the advice I wish I would have had when I started pitching my graphic novels and comics and stuff, when I started pitching my ideas to these big companies. So he's like, I recommend you actually go independent. And since you already have a fan base and your
Right.
cast has fan bases, because a lot of my cast, like I said, I want to give other upcoming people stuff. And I
Right.
know a lot of actors want to, and voice actors, because it's an animated series, are trying to
Right.
get work. So I'm like, I'll go on TikTok and be like, oh, I like your vibe fits this series. I like your voice. Would you be interested? And they
Right.
just happen to have an audience. And so with that, growing an audience and funding this thing without losing any or having to censor things because it's owned by a big corporation and
Right.
losing the originalness. And I'm like, thank you so much for giving me that insight that I would have got swindled because it looks like a big paycheck, but
Right.
learning from his experience, the long run of doing it independent and learning along the way instead of going, oh, this is a great payout. Let me just go ahead and just sell my kid.
Yeah. No, I agree with that too because and that's another thing too. Since the pandemic, um, we've had so much technology come out that we're starting to see a lot of independent filmmakers go out there and actually make independent films. And I think that for me, and one of the reasons I push the independent film industry is because I think that um, a lot of the ideals that they have are original. It's not the whole big Hollywood remake everything, regurgitate the same movie over and over and over. With the independent filmmaker, you see a lot of new creative ideals that's out there, and now with the technology, I think we have that anybody who has a passion for doing film or animation or whatever, the tools are there now.
Oh yeah, and like with these guys, they were like, "Hey," when I interviewed them, like, "This is a good idea. Like, You need to protect that's something original we haven't seen, and we've been in this industry for a long time.
Right.
Multiple different ones are like, you need to like if I was in an interview we were talking about, they're like, you might want to cut that out so nobody steals that idea. That's a good idea. And they're like, I've been in this industry. That's a keep that baby yours. That's really good. And like, we need more ideas and more concepts like that.
Right.
Like, for instance, I'll give an example for the series, which one of the cast members you've had recently as a guest, Zach Arnold, the impressionist.
Yeah.
And shout out to Zach. I know you're watching, man. Like I said, he's going to be one of the characters in the main cast for the series, and we're looking forward to it. But it's a dark comedy, and I want to promote it here as well. It's a dark comedy about these people that come from different walks of life that you don't see every day. Like, I have an interracial couple I've talked to different interracial couples. I was like, what do you want to see? From like spirit, they're like, don't do, a white girl and a black guy, do a black woman and a white guy. Do
Right.
the opposite. Like, and they're like, do this. And then I have one with self-harm. It's going to be, a mix of dark humor. Like, I've self-harmed myself in my past, in my youth, and I've had struggle with mental health issues. And it's one of those things that you don't see a lot. And I want to do it in a way where it's like, I'm moved by this dark point in the series because I've been there. Then the next minute I'm laughing because it's that, seeing the light in the darkness and going,
Right.
wow, I've been there. I've hurt myself. Then the next minute I'm laughing at a joke that I just made to myself about the bad thing I just did,
Right.
and using the series to help promote, it will get better and help people, using this series not only to tell these stories of these characters, but also help people with these stories who've either gone through it or had loved ones gone through it in a way that is heartwarming, but also funny and dark humor at the same time. And
Right.
I've always heard the reason I named it what I named it. I've always heard growing up, oh, we're just a dysfunctional family. So the name of
Right.
the series is Dysfunctionals.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so it's, like I said, it's a dark dramedy comedy that is a band of characters, and there is going to be like some pop culture references. Obviously, I'm a big John Hughes fan, so there will be some, clothes montage, 80s jokes in there. Like I said, there will be some pop culture, but I
Right.
have to do it in a way that's copyright friendly.
Mm.
It's just one of those things. It's that the passion, and when I tell people the story, and they're just, a lot of the cast, when I explain what the series is and the character and the detail, they're just like, I just want to be a part of this thing. They're like, I know even if I'm not getting paid right now until after it's funded, I just want to be along for this because I see the potential here and I
Right.
want to be associated when this thing hits.
Cool. Yeah. Speaking of Zach, the project I'm working on, I actually have a role for Zach. So, yeah,
Awesome. Awesome.
I just talked to him yesterday. I just sent him a copy of a script that I wrote. So, yeah, hopefully, things work out, and I'll be able to do a television show. So, but we're still got a long ways to go, and a lot of ducks we're trying to put in a row. So, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah,
Oh
Zach,
yeah, we're in that same space at the moment. We're doing concept script writing and getting everything. We got the character designs and everything we want. It's just now taking the ideas and putting that into a full dialogue to create this pilot to help
right,
get funded. And it's a journey. Like I said, we'll definitely hook up because, like I said, I do this through, not only, I like to tell people I have the podcast, but I also
yeah,
have my production company, which is Fandom Punk
okay,
Productions, which the reason I named it Fandom Punk is because fandom could be anything, not
right,
just geekiness. And then punk, because I'm, punk rock was originally, anarchy against the social
right,
norm and against the thing. So I'm being punk rock and being punk against the mainstream of how things are made. So we're going
right,
at a independent punk rock way. So Fandom Punk Productions is my production company that we're developing everything through. So
Cool.
like I said, you or anybody who's interested, an independent out there who's looking to, get things made or have ideas that you want to explore, hit me up, Fandom Punk Productions, my email, reach out to you. They can reach out to you through your emails and you can send it to me. I just want to help creators through this project, with yourself and Zach and everybody else.
Cool, man. I appreciate that too, because that's the thing too, is and why I bring other people from other podcasts on the show is because I think that if we could unite and pull our resources together, we could get so much done in this industry. So I really understand people who have podcasts who doesn't want to like team up with other people. You know what I mean? Like they only want to promote their podcast because there's so many other shows out there. There's a lot of other shows out there who I think are doing some awesome stuff, and everybody's got their own niche, they got their own audience, but I think by everybody pulling together, especially us as podcasters pulling together that, pull our resources together, we could get so much done, and we can actually change the industry, how things are done. Like you're talking about, we go in there and like Hollywood right now, I think is hanging on by a thread, because people don't watch movies and television shows the way they used to. So things are changing. Everything's becoming streaming. And I don't think Hollywood's fully gotten the picture of that yet, but yeah.
Oh yeah. And I'm trying to do it in a way too, that like, as as fellow nerds, we all fall back on physical media for a reason. Right. Streaming is just like everything else. They can control it. And I want to have a thing that like, I can go, hey, I own this thing. It's not owned by a company. If you want to watch it, here's the thing. Like, there's a creator of the series Owl House. Loved it so much. She put a lot of progressive characters in that. About there's a lot of lesbian and gay characters in that. And at the time, Disney didn't like that. And the creator was like, "This is my baby. I love it. Screw Disney. If you got to pirate my episode, I hate to say this, but I want you guys to experience my show. I encourage to pirate the series." So, I want, people to be able to watch the show and the content without having to be worried about it being behind a paywall or, being taken off because it doesn't fit a corporation's agenda or it doesn't fit, it's not making in the ratings that it is. Like, I want it to be like, okay, you are a fan of this. I'm going to make it for the fans. I'm not making it for, yes, it'd be great to make money. I'm making it for the people who would want it and enjoy it for what it is.
Right. So let me ask you this: who out there would you like to have on your show? What guests would you like to have on your show? Is there somebody in particular?
There's a few. I've talked to, like I said, I've talked to a lot of people that were heroes of mine. And, and then also I've learned through, just working conventions and just getting into the behind the scenes of things. There's a lot of heroes that you find things out about that you're like, God, that sucks. I wish I love them, what the things they did, but I can't them as a person. But there is one of the holy grails I would love. I'm going to use Ghostbuster Nerd. I'm going to use Ghostbuster Nerd and Nut to the hints. Me and my wife's wedding in October of last year. We had an outdoor wedding because we're goth. We had an outdoor wedding with a castle and everything, and it was spooky season, and we had a Ghostbuster car. So as a Ghostbuster, I know Bill Murray is a hard get, but I'd love to get Dan Aykroyd because he just seems like a nut. Him, Dan Aykroyd, Mel Brooks. I'm a big Mel Brooks guy. I'd love to get Mel Brooks. He's a hero of mine. Well, who else is another hero I would love to have? Unfortunately, I did meet him. I would have loved to have him on a show. I'm a huge comic nerd, as you probably can tell. I would have loved to have Stan Lee, but unfortunately, before the podcast was a thing,
Yeah.
he had passed away. But I've met the guy, great, amazing guy.
Wow.
Another big one, I know he's controversial, but I'd love to have Todd McFarlane, who's the creator of Spider-Man that we know in the 90s and McFarlane Toys. He's just
Right.
one of those guys. Like, I know he has horror stories from him and good stories, but he's one of those ones like, wow, he'd be just interesting just to talk to.
Right. Yeah. Most people probably know him from Spawn. Oh
yeah.
So,
Which
yeah,
a lot of people I love the story of Spawn, which for any of your guests who don't know, him and Jim Lee, who created Image Comics, they literally did that and created Spawn as a middle finger to DC and Marvel Comics, because they were like, we've done Spider-Man and Batman like this for decades, and you guys are changing the art and don't like that. So they kind of did like I did, and like, you know what, middle finger, I'm going to do my own thing, and it's going to be bigger and better than you. And hence is why how Spawn became this phenomenon that everybody loves.
Right. Yeah. So those are great people to have. To try to get on. Dan Aykroyd, I think, would be awesome because of course, he's been around forever. Plus, his time at Saturday Night Live and all the tons of things that he's done. Bill Murray would be a good one.
I don't know if you're. Bill's hard to get. He's very recluse when it comes to things like that. Another big one I'd love to have. I'm in the process now because they've reached out for like 10-minute interviews. I'm like, can I get anything longer? I'm a big turtle nerd, so I'm a big TMNT guy. I would love to have Kevin Eastman.
Okay. So who
for the guy Kevin Eastman? He's the co-creator of the series and everything.
Okay. Because I'm wondering, there's the guys over at Bombastic Media that I had on. They had somebody that was writers or creators of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on their show. I'm trying to remember who they said. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who they said it was. But I'll hit them up. I'll hit Mark up and I can find out and see, because maybe you could get an interview with that guy. But man. Well, cool, dude. So now, if somebody's wanting to watch your show or find out more about your production company, what's some of the social media sites that you have that they could come see it?
Anywhere I'm pretty much everywhere that you find, podcast, websites. Right now I'm in the process of creating my website, which a lot of people don't realize that's harder than it is to make an official website. You can have an official website, but not look like the 80s where it's black background and green writing, with just a photo thing. So, I want to have a good website where you can find everything in one. Basically, like I explained it to my designer, I want my website to look like old MySpace, where it's everything on there that you can find for the production company.
Right.
But if anyone wants to find the podcast, it's if you can see on my shirt, it's Fandom Squad Podcast. It's going to be this logo. For anywhere you find it, it's Fandom Squad Podcast on all your podcast players, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I don't have X or Twitter. I don't have that one. I just never really liked that platform. But yeah, you can find it anywhere else. The production company, same thing. Direct contact, hit me up either on Fandom Squad Podcast at gmail.com or Fandom Punk Productions at gmail.com. You can hit me up directly. It's straight to me. So I'm the CEO founder. I do have some people under me, but you will be interacting with me directly, and I will be helping you with your projects. Cool. Like I said, and you can find me, Jeremy, it's a weird spelling, Jeramy Wilcox, WICOX on Facebook. If you want to find me there, like I said, all my links for everything will be on that as well, for the production company and the podcast and all the other projects that I'm working on at the moment.
So definitely go check them out. Hit up those sites. I know I'm going to go in there and because because some of the people that you mentioned, I'm really curious to hear their interview. John Cooper being one of them. So I'm definitely going to check it out. So you guys, go check them out. And if you guys have a project, that you're trying to get off the looking for help or advice, definitely check Jeremy and his company out for that as well. So all right,
Oh
man.
yeah,
Well,
and I have a lot of connections too. So even if I don't, know the answer, I have a lot of connections that I can. If you have questions, I can reach out to those people and get you answers as well.
cool. And that's the other good thing too is if you have projects and you're looking to get you know certain actors or whatever, hitting up mine and Jeremy. If we know that actor, have a way to get a hold of them, we'd love to help you out with that as well. Um, you know, if we can, if we know the person. But that's another way that can help you get your projects developed. Not only that, but and I'm sure that you've had tons of people that's come on who are actors who are still looking to get more work. So there's always another connection. Anyways, I wanted
Oh
to.
yeah, oh yeah, and I don't know about you. I know a lot for me. A lot of the people I've had on, not only just a lot of people just do podcast interviews. Like
Right,
I try to make my environment like your show. We're like, hey, we're friends now. Like we're not just I had you on my
right,
podcast. So
right,
like a lot of these people, if you want them in your show, some of them I am close with, some of them I'm not. But like I said, I can let you know. Like if you have an idea, I'm like, hey, he was on your show or they were on your show. She was on your show. Can you send me their people, or do you know how I can contact for my project? I would
right,
gladly help anybody do that.
right. And I'm sure you like me. I'm I stay in contact with all my guests, um, and I sometimes I have them come on more than one time. As they have new projects that they're working on, I'll bring them in and let them promote their new projects as well. So I always try to stay in contact with everybody that I've interviewed. Because to me, bringing them on and having them share their journey, um, they're still in the middle of their journey. So as they're growing, I want to help, see them with all the new projects that they're working on as well. So
Oh
definitely.
yeah, like the guy from Doctor Who, like my podcast literally is the only one he does besides the stuff for BBC. And
Mhm.
he's like, the only reason I do them because that's my job. He's like, I do yours because I like coming on, telling my stories, telling my
Right.
adventures. I get to hang out. In his British words, he's like, I like coming on and taking the piss. He's like, I
Right.
love coming on, just having a good time. He was like,
Right.
we just talk nerddom. And he was like, so I enjoy your show, and so building those connections. So it's
Right.
one of those things I enjoy about, like you said, just reaching out and making real connections versus just not an interview with my guests, and actually making this, like we've been talking this entire time, making connections and growing each other as artists and performers and all that umbrella that folds with
Right.
that.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I want to thank you so much, dude, for taking time out and being on the show. And like I say, guys, if you guys get a chance to go check out Phantom Squad podcast, and then if you guys have a project, definitely hit Jeremy up, and make sure you got the right spelling. It's Jeramy. I know I got it spelled wrong up on mine,
Yes.
but we'll correct that. So make
Well,
sure you
you're
guys.
good. A lot of times autocorrect just does it automatically. So I'm like, yeah, you'll have to go back because old school. It's like the little red line. I'm like, yes, I know my name is spelled not correctly.
I guess I this way when I put it in, but I'll have to go make that correction. Make sure you guys don't make that mistake. Jeramy. So, to check him out. All right, brother. Man, again, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I really enjoyed getting to sit down and talk to you, man.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me on. Like I said, I'm always open if you want to bring me back on, or, when the projects that we're working on, more development and, help promote each other's stuff. I'd love to come back on and promote that and, development, and have your audience engage and give them, some previews of some things that we have in the works.
Cool, man. Well, definitely. Especially this new series that you're working on. once we were able to get to a point, that you want to come back and promote it, and definitely, I'd love to have you back on. And I'm sure, because we have so much in common, we're gonna be doing stuff in the future, working together in the future. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, cool. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. Remember, guys, you are uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward. Peace.